second ago. And do you feel like the Kings lean on 2001, 2, 3 like a little too heavy in their decisions? Again, this doesn't have to be related to Bobby. You kind of brought it up a second ago. But does that happen with this organization?
You know what?
Vlade's here. Peja's at least around. Mike is not here, but he's here. He's around. Obviously, Doug is the coach. Vlade, I honestly think, runs the whole operation. And Bobby's here now.
But I think so the people who are in charge of stuff and making decisions, you really have two, I guess. It's Doug and Vlade. And Doug made a decision to go get a guy that he trusts and he believes in his abilities in Bobby Jackson. And that's it. Like that's it. Page is not, he's around, but he's not making decisions.
He was,
but then they moved one, and even that was, I believe, Vlade being here and Vlade saying, "Hey, I want this guy." So
sure.
I think it comes off as Vivek reaching back to those guys to try and get them to work, and that's not. I don't see it necessarily as that. I see him as having the one guy that's in charge of whatever he's in charge of and letting him put his staff together, whether it's front office when Vlade was here and the coaches with Doug Christie here right now. And they reach back to one or two of those guys. But it's really just it's Vlade, Doug, and Bobby. And once again, Bobby is somebody that has been part of this league for a while now. And he's got the respect of somebody like Nick Nurse wanting him to be around as well. So it's going to be viewed as getting the band back together. But I think Bobby, no disrespect to everybody else, he's the one that has ventured off and had more credibility around the league with others. And now has come back home to Sacramento.
He was in Minnesota before coming back to Stockton and then going to Philadelphia.
Doug played on the 2002 team as well, but is it fair to say Doug kind of came back the second time around rather than the Kings going and get like the way you guys
that's
tell
absolutely
true.
The
way you guys tell like Doug had a plan to kind of end up where he's at now. So I don't think that's fair to Doug to say he's here because of 2002. Like, Doug had a plan, like he saw through.
Doug had a plan to be around,
right?
And I cannot say the man made pennies to work at 1140. And it was just to be around the game again and to be around this franchise.
Like Doug is here because of Doug Christie, not because he played on the 2002 Kings, basically is what I'm saying. Like Doug got here, I think, because he hit probably whatever goals he had. It is,
but being Doug helped with the TV stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, you could not miss replacing Jerry Reynolds. Like you couldn't afford to hire the wrong person when it was time for Jerry to I think at first he slowed down his schedule a bit before stepping away. Doug was the perfect guy for that. I know Bobby's universally loved, but that role is not for Bobby Jackson. That role's for Doug Christie. And that, him being Doug and the fans loving him the way that he did really helped in his transition to that role.
And I also look at all these guys that come back. Vlade was a first-time guy. He didn't do well. He was in over his head as general manager. So he didn't do well. But Doug and Bobby, just because they're guys that have ties to the past of the Sacramento Kings, doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing. I think a lot of people view that when they go back to those greatest show on court players and bringing them back to the organization, they think that, or they perceive it as they're bringing these guys back just because of nostalgia. Doug Christie knows the game of basketball as good as Will Hardy does.
Sure.
Bobby Jackson knows the game of basketball as well as, what was the guy that was in Milwaukee who's in Charlotte now?
Adrian Griffin?
No,
Charles Lee.
Yeah. Who people clamored over, right? Like if the Kings, before he was the head coach, if the Kings would have gotten Charles Lee to be part of Doug Christie's staff. Oh, well, that's a great hire. He knows basketball. Bobby Jackson knows basketball just as much as those guys do. Yeah. So, yes, there's some nostalgia to it. But these guys are
That's
still,
not why he's here.
No, yeah, these guys are still great basketball minds, in my opinion.
It's also worth pointing out, Bobby, I know we know our love of Bobby Jackson. Bobby's you pretty much like universally respected everywhere that he's been. New Orleans, I think it was New Orleans. It was that I don't might have been Oklahoma. I think it was New Orleans.
I thought it was New Orleans. Yeah.
They loved him. They, the organization, they, the fans, like Bobby. It's not as much as we want to believe we're special. It's not. Bobby's the special one. It's not unique to Sacramento, and you know that's why my man was in Minnesota. Like that's why Nick Nurse came calling. He is and I think it's fair to say, a universally respected individual.
Yep.
The way he carries himself, the way he conducts himself as a player, as a coach, as a man. Like Bobby checks all those, as does Doug. Bobby checks all of those boxes.
And the way he can communicate with these players as well helps out with what I deem his success in these roles as well.
Organizations bringing guys back too isn't some foreign concept either.
No.
Like you can go around and probably find one or two guys that used to play way back when and around the organization to some extent. Do you guys think it's just a matter of Vlade kind of just soured it all with how he did? And everyone's like, oh, 2002. Just I think everyone, like maybe subconsciously, everyone goes back to Vlade and the job he did. And maybe like Casey said, he was a first time guy kind of in over his head. And that's just always going to be in people's just the back of their minds. Do you think that ties into it? Because like if, say, Vlade doesn't even ever become the GM, they're fine or whatever.
I just think it's the organization more than it's flat. Like if the organization had been more successful, it wouldn't feel like, oh, everything. Like if Vlade had been great, or if good, if he had just drafted Luka,
yeah.
Like I don't you know I think the narrative would be different. Obviously, the team would be different, and I think when something is bad, you just keep looking for reasons for it to be worse, and I think that's what some Kings fans do. Oh, it's bad. Oh, great. Now we're just bringing back more 2003 people. We can't get over it. I think it's just piling on something that's probably not even related.
And it doesn't matter because the results are the only thing that matter. But tell me if I'm wrong. Vlade, the plan wasn't for him to be the general manager, right? It was to come back. He was going to be part of the front office. But I think that wasn't the plan. They fired Pete. He stepped in. And then it felt like, I could be wrong, but it felt like they brought Scott Perry in. We're like, I don't really know. Like, this is a lot. I don't know. You bring Scott Perry in to help out with that. And you thought he was going to be there to help Vlade along and maybe be the basketball decision maker on this stuff. And then he gets his dream job.
And
Vlade's just like, wow. That doesn't excuse you for not picking Luka or nothing, but that I don't know if the plan was Vlade, you're the GM that's going to take us to the next level. A lot of stuff happened for it to get to that point.